everybody. This is Brian Kapka. I'm IPA Director out of Chicago, and I am here with Polka Hall of Famer Joe Macielag. Say hello, Joe.
Hi. Welcome to my ego.
All right, well, we're going to do a little bit of getting to know Joe. And I had to do a little bit of homework on you. So I found a lot of great interviews and things that were covered on you. So just kind of get started. Understand. So you were born in 1935 in the Niagara Falls, New York area. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And your father was a Polish immigrant. And tell us a little bit about that and how he brought the music of Poland back to our country.
Well, first of all, let me correct something.
Okay.
He was not an immigrant.
Okay.
He was born in the United States in 1907.
Oh.
But when he was a year old, they went back to Poland.
Oh, okay.
So theoretically, not only theoretically, but really, he was a United States citizen.
He was a U.S. citizen.
Raised in Poland.
Gotcha. Okay.
Came back when he was 17 years old by himself, his uncle in Niagara Falls.
Gotcha.
Okay. So anyway, I mean, in essence, he was Polish because, he was raised there and he couldn't speak the English language when he got here.
Sure.
So my home life, my musical home life was as a result of my dad. He, back in our days when I was a kid, our only means of entertainment was self-entertainment or radio. Nothing else existed. On weekends, people used to visit each other. He and his friend, who happened to come from the same village in Poland, who turned out to be my godfather, these two guys used to sing all the time when they got together, at parties and stuff like that. They were like a Pied Piper type couple. Actually, they were like Polish rappers because they would just spew out song after song, lyric after lyric.
Wow.
My mother used to say she'd have to have a pen and pencil ready because she'd hear words for the first time she never heard before, and she wanted to copy them down as these two guys were singing.
Sure.
So that was kind of my home life. My dad fiddled with a violin, but really never studied music and didn't know much about music. It's just by ear. And he came from the southeastern part of Poland near Rzeszów, which is referred to as Galicia, which little Wally always considered himself a Mały Galicjak. It's that region of Poland, near the Carpathian Mountains at the lower end of the country.
Right.
And so that's where two-quarter time music really existed, because all of Poland, if you study Polish music, it's almost all exclusively three-quarter time. The Mazur, the Polonaise, the Waltz, the Sztajrek, the Oberek. It's only the region at the southern part of Poland that plays two-quarter time music. But of course, that was a mixture of ethnic groups. You had the Bohemians, you had the Lemkos, you had the Ruthenians, you had the Hutzels. It was a mixed bag, so to speak. You talk about a diversified area. They were it in this Galicia area. So anyway, this was my young life, hearing this kind of music and these kind of songs. And there's a story that my mom told me that we were invited to a wedding. And back in those days, there was no such thing as an adult reception. When you were invited to the wedding, everybody was invited. In other words, I went too. And I went as a 4-year-old at that time. And I guess my mother dressed me up in a white suit. And they went to the hall. And it's the first time that I saw a live musical group play, a trio, I think it was, or 4 guys. And I was just mesmerized by hearing live music. She told me when we came home at night, there wasn't a single spot on my white suit because I just sat there the whole day. So that gives you a kind of an inkling of, what my background was as far as music is concerned. Uh, I always wanted to play a musical instrument, and of course, polka music, accordion. That's the first thing that pops in your head.
Sure.
My parents couldn't afford an accordion. They couldn't
Okay.
afford anything, to be honest with you. Uh, it wasn't until I won a scholarship at a boarding school called St. Francis High School, run by Franciscan fathers
Okay.
here outside of Buffalo in Athol Springs, New York. And when I was a sophomore, I had the opportunity to have music lessons at the school, but I had to have an instrument. I didn't have an instrument, but my father's friend had a clarinet. And I asked him if I could borrow the clarinet. And he said, sure, go ahead. So after about 7 months of taking lessons, I asked him if I could purchase the clarinet from him, that I was delivering papers and, doing odd jobs, working at a butcher shop, and I would pay him. And he says, no, I can't sell it to you. He
Oh,
says, it's yours, keep it.
oh wow.
And the tears flowed from my eyes. I couldn't believe it. And
That's awesome.
that's how I got my start in playing a clarinet and the reed instruments. And after that
Yeah.
7 month period of lessons, that was the extent of my musical education. From there, I
You
just
learned the rest on your own.
yep,
Yeah.
I studied, bought books on arranging. I found out how these kind of things work, and uh, I took it from there.
Yeah. That's cool. So, in 1952, you had your, was it not 52? That's, yeah, I take that back. 1952. What was the name of your first band? You had a little trio.
Yeah, the Bob Ridds Trio. Uh, it was two brothers that lived across the alley from where I lived,
Uh
and
huh.
they heard me practicing all the time, and they asked me if I'd want to join them. So I
Okay.
did, and that was my professional gig. My first professional gig. I think I was 16 years old at the time, and I remember the first place that we played at. When the bartender found out I was 16, he says, "Holy cow, they can close me up if you're under 16." I says, "Don't worry about it. I'll only drink Pepsi or Coke,
There you go. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we hear
so
that
that's the
same
way it
story.
started.
We hear a lot of the same stories here in Chicago with a lot of the musicians that grew up here. A lot of them playing in the lounges, on Saturday nights, late Wednesday nights, and they're only 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
Some of them. That's funny.
Yep.
So, tell me about the musician or the band that was the biggest influence on you.
Well, it had to be Frank Wojnarowski,
Yeah.
just like Jimmy Sturr. As a matter of fact, Jimmy Sturr calls me about every 2 months to check up on me to see
Oh,
how I'm
really?
doing, because the two of us had the same kind of feeling towards Frank.
Yeah.
And when I was about, I'm guessing in the late 40s, I must have been about 10, 11 years old. Frank was to appear at our church hall for a dance. And by that time, I had purchased my first 78s of Jebot and BM Mamcha and
Uh-huh.
his Gural polka. And asked my parents if they would take me to the dance. I wanted to hear him live. So they did take me. And I remember it was a cold night. And as we were walking along the side of the building, even though the windows were closed, I could hear the band play.
Yeah.
And I got all excited. And when I went inside and heard them in person, hearing a 9-piece orchestra, first time in my life, and hearing them live rather than a 78 RPM record, the distinct difference was beyond my, I just didn't know that a live band with that many guys could sound the way they did. And I was just, just in awe
Right.
of
Yeah.
how a band could sound with arrangements and stuff like that. And that was the first time that I went to see a live polka band, a name band. Up to that point, I only knew the neighborhood guys that played at the weddings, the
Sure.
accordion player with the cigar in his mouth. And
Yeah.
and all of them playing the same songs from the Podgorski or the Wita books. I mean, you went to one, you went to the other, and you heard the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
But the
So,
dynamics of a 9-piece orchestra fully arranged, I mean, that just blew my mind.
yeah,
So
I
I
can
just
imagine.
became I became sort of a groupie. Anytime Frank came into this area, uh, I went there.
Yeah.
Finally, I had the nerve, so to speak, to find out what hotels they stay at when they come here. And I would go to the hotels and I would meet with them there. And
Yeah.
actually, I got to know Wally Yancek, his tenor man, and he was his arranger. He'd bring me up into his room and he'd show me the music that they had just got through recording. He'd let me copy the stuff. He'd give me tips. Uh, his trumpet player later on in life, Mike Diedick, who lived in New York City, lived just across the street from the old Madison Square Garden in a boarding house with other musicians. I'd go visit him. He would introduce me to the guys that played reed instruments.
Uh-huh.
He'd tell them to teach me some tips and stuff like that. I mean,
Wow.
I just became part of it. And then those days, I just had nerve enough when I was in the New York City area. Well, my aunt lived in Brooklyn. That's why I was there. I had the nerve. I asked her, how do I get to Bridgeport, Connecticut? And she told me how to get there. And I got there and I got to Frank's house. I rang the doorbell and his wife answered. And I said, is Frank home? And she's looking at me. Yeah. And she said, she calls Frank to the door. And Frank sees me and he says, Joe, what are you doing here? I probably was about 14, 15 years old at that time. I mean, really, it's
Wow.
amazing. How did I know where he lived? Because I had the original Spievnik that he issued, and right at the
Okay.
bottom you'll
His
see his
address.
address of his home, and that's
Oh,
how I knew
wow.
where he lived. I still have this book.
That's cool. So, tell me the name of the first band that you had.
The first what?
The first band that you had.
We called ourselves the Melody Bells Orchestra.
Okay. Do you remember all
Formed.
the original members of your band?
Uh, First of all, I was a member of a band that was rehearsing in Buffalo, and the accordion player who put it together was an incredible arranger. I couldn't believe when we started playing his stuff. We played Gene Wisniewski's Harmony Bells Orchestra stuff like the recordings. I mean, they were just excellent.
Huh.
Well, anyway, I booked a job at our church with this group.
Okay.
Well, about 3 months before the job was supposed to be played, they disbanded.
Oh no.
And I was stuck. I said, what am I gonna do?
Yeah, yeah.
I promised to come up with a band. So I got hold of a couple of the band members and they got to know other guys and this guy got to know other guys. We got together in 3 months, we put together the band. That's how our band was born, out of
Wow.
necessity, because I was stuck after opening up my mouth that we would play for the dance for this
Oh
Holy Name
wow.
Society.
Yeah.
And the guys just blew it apart. Why? Till this day, I have no idea.
Hmm.
So that's the way we started, and we called ourselves the Melody Bells Orchestra. Sort of, Gene Wisniewski had the harmony bells. We just said, well, let's be another type of bell, and that's how the band got started.
How many members were in that band?
9.
9? Do
I
you
I
remember
mirrored I mirrored the Wojnarowski style, and of course the
style?
Eastern
Sure.
bands. Almost all the Eastern bands were identical as far as instrumentation is concerned.
Gotcha. Do you remember all the
So
members, the original members?
there's Lenny Kubera, the piano player who lives outside of Chicago right now, who's still alive. My
Okay.
bass player, Danny Aarons, is still alive. And let's see, Christine Katowski, who was our vocalist, is still alive. She's in Florida.
Florida. Okay.
And myself, I guess that's it. All the rest of the people passed away.
Passed away already.
God has
Wow.
blessed me because really I'm 85 in my 86th year already, and I'm still relatively good health, and uh, I'm still carrying on.
Awesome. So tell us the story of how you and your band became the backup band for Frank Wojnarowski on a TV show in Buffalo.
Well, Buffalo has a high density Polonia uh, area,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
population. So the marketing and salespeople of the TV station felt it's time to to market to that specific population. So naturally, a polka show was thought of, and prior to that, the Chicago Lou Prohut and those groups were on national TV, and Lou Pro and Lawrence Welk with the polka. So they knew that polka was the key to the population. Well, they investigated and found that the name Frank Wojnarowski would be a good way to start. So they contacted him. Well, the union said, if you want a band, it's got to be Buffalo musicians.
Oh my gosh.
You can't import a band and play a regular show in our district, in our jurisdiction, unless
That's
it's
crazy.
Buffalo musicians. Well, Frank knew me, and actually by that time Frank had known me and attended one of our rehearsals when he was here
Okay.
in Buffalo with his group. So he asked me if I'd be interested. And would I be interested? Yeah. Is the Pope Catholic? So that's how that marriage came about.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So because of this TV show, you were known also as the Pick a Polka Orchestra.
Because the name of the show was Pick a Polka.
Right.
That was designated by the marketing people.
Yeah.
We had nothing to do with the name. But because we were on the Pick a Polka show, suddenly everybody started to refer to us as the Pick a Polka Orchestra. So I guess that was our middle name, like I was Chris Joseph John, so now Melody Bells became Melody Bells Pick a Polka. and then of course the guys in the group always used to laugh, just before the show would start, they'd say, "Don't pick your nose, pick a polka."
Uh-huh. So as a result of this TV show, your Pick a Polka band ended up backing up many great artists. Can you name some of them?
I mean, when they appeared on our show?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Uh, a lot of Hall of Famers. Marion Lush, Frankie Yankovic,
Yeah.
the Connecticut Twins, Yash and Stash.
The Twins, yep.
Let's see. Happy. So is Stash. Stan Lee.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, he appeared. Teresa Zapolska, Gene Wisniewski.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we even backed him up at a huge dance in Canada at the Crystal Beach Ballroom.
Oh, wow.
And he appeared with us as a guest star and brought his arrangements. And to be honest with you, I was kind of nervous because I always admired his arrangements being technically superb beyond the regular kind of polka music we're used to.
Sure.
Worried that we wouldn't be able to cut some of his stuff, but we came through okay. And Marion Lush appeared on our show, and later on that night, I appeared on stage with him. And as a matter of fact, one of the highlights of my life is the fact that Marion Lush called me and asked me permission to record one of the songs that I wrote and that we recorded. And as a matter of fact, he put it on his Best of Dino LP also.
Which song was that?
It's a waltz called Why Oh Why.
Okay, yeah, I know that waltz. Yeah.
If you look underneath the title on the LP, you'll see my name underneath. He gives me credit for the fact that I authored the song. Okay. the song is really a tearjerker because it's a story I wrote about my parents when my mother died at the age of 38. And my father, was heartbroken and he was really depressed. And it's a story about that marriage, about that love affair, and, me being the only son. And I wrote that song. I called it "You Were Mine," and Marion called it "Why Oh Why."
Yeah, it's a nice melody to that song. Very nice. So how long did that
And
show? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
uh, I just got some good news too that Dennis Polisky, Jackie Rivera said they're coming out with a 25th anniversary CD, and that they'll be using a couple of my tunes. And as a matter of fact, I did one of them at the 2018 induction, I guess, at the
Oh,
Millennium
okay. Yeah.
that I sang with him. Or no, it was 2019, I think. Yeah, we
Yeah,
got
the
that one in.
2019. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that was the last live one
Yeah.
since the pandemic
Yep.
came about. So
Yes.
he he arranged that one, and I know that he asked for words for a waltz that I have also, a different waltz that I recorded. So I feel pretty good about that. And not only that, but even outside of the show, I was involved with a lot of polka Hall of Famers. Walt Dana,
Yep.
for example. I still have the original note he sent me about recording our very first album on the Dana label
Oh,
in
wow.
February of 1965, telling me
That's cool.
where we should meet and what recording studio we're going to be at in Cleveland.
Huh.
And Marisha Data backed her up back in 1955 in Toledo, Ohio, and in Jackson, Michigan.
Wow.
Still have her handwritten autograph on a banner that was used at the dance where she said, "Joe and the boys, you're the best orchestra I ever worked with. I hope we meet again." I relish that thing
That's cool. That's cool.
because she was quite a talent.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Sturr, of course, I've worked with him. Uh, he's invited me to sing with his group a couple times. Johnny Kadash, another Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I sang with him with Jimmy Sturr's band when they came here at Cheektowaga for a Polish festival. Jimmy invited me up on a
Oh,
stage, and
nice.
the two of us sang together. Dave Scrubby Severiniak, another
Yeah.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I had him back around 2000, 2001, about 20 some years ago. I put together polka concerts with the 9-piece group. We appeared in Tonawanda at the theater on 2 occasions. We
Yeah.
appeared in Villa Maria College Auditorium on 2 occasions in Cheektowaga. We appeared at the Fredonia Opera House in Fredonia, New York, and we got such rave reviews. We did a stage show, and I had Anya Pivovarczyk work with me
I was just going to ask you,
as
Anya. Yep.
as a vocalist on those jobs. And I had Scrubby on one of them. So he and Anya did their Hate Cigania uh, polka, which
Yep.
was their big hit.
Yes, it was.
So I've sort of rubbed shoulders with quite a few of these guys, and then later on, my sort of sunset years, Bud Hudensky called me a few times to play as a sideman with his group. So I played with him in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, and other groups, other places in Pennsylvania for about 3 or 4 different places. So I felt good about that. And as I said, Dennis Polisky, he's a Hall of Famer, Jackie Libero.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I had my fill of working with some great people. And um, as I said, God has blessed me in many ways, and that's one of them.
Well,
As a
that's for
matter of
sure.
fact, another guy, I can't forget him. I'm sorry. Chet Zablocki from Toledo, Ohio. He was in the Hall of Fame in 1994 along with Scrubby. I guess he
Okay.
was a DJ, and he was the guy that gave us our first recording thing. on the basis of Frank Wojnarowski giving him a recommendation when he
Huh.
wanted to start a recording thing. And here it is.
Look at that.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And with the
45.
adapter.
Yeah.
Those are the first ones.
Yes, yes. So how many albums did you record?
We recorded 4 of those 45s for him, and
Yeah.
then we recorded 3 albums, and and the last one with Dana.
Dana. Okay.
Dino re-released the Marisha one, which became sort of our handle as far as
Gotcha.
being recognized by this thing. This was the original album here.
Okay,
And then,
I remember that one. Yeah.
and then Dino reissued it with this cover, which I like an
Oh.
awful lot.
All right.
So, and I came across something just the other day that I forgot about. 1965 International Polka Convention in Buffalo.
Yep.
And I wonder if this isn't the just before the IPA was formed, because it has all the Chicago groups in here.
Huh.
And it's incredible. It's got the pages and pages of all the radio stations throughout the United States
Holy
that broadcast polka music at that time. And here's some of the groups that appeared. We're here.
Yeah.
The Ampouleers, Happy Louie, Jumping Jacks,
Wow.
and Marion Lush is in here, yeah, with his group.
Yep.
And I just, I hate that this is going to go out in a dumpster when I'm not here anymore. I wish, I don't know what to do with it. I've asked several people, if they want it, and they just shrug their shoulders. What am I going to do with it?
Oh, believe me,
I
I know people who would collect that.
So I don't know if the IPA would be interested in something like that.
I'm sure they would. That'd probably be something we could always put in the Hall of Fame. That's for sure.
And
Yeah.
I still have this. Yeah, the Sayevsky.
The Sayevsky books.
Yeah, and look at the nice pen and ink picture they have of their store in here in Chicago. Yeah, that's from 1940 something. I got a lot of stuff.
That's pretty
then
cool.
I became very active in lecturing and talking about polka music. And
yeah, I understand that outside of music, you were involved with the Polish community.
Oh yeah, the Polish American Congress, and I got to meet Lech Wałęsa and had him here, and went to Washington quite a bit to the Polish embassy and meetings with the ambassadors over there. Yeah, I became quite involved. But this book here, this magazine was put out by the New York Folklore, and there's an article here about that they interviewed myself and Jerry Darlak about Polish music.
Oh wow!
And we've got that, and I became interested in joining with the Jewish community, and we had klezmer polka concerts.
Wow!
Like I said, I did a lot of lecturing on Polish music, and as a matter of fact, I got paid a pretty good buck by the New York Council of Arts on an article I wrote about Polish American anthem, the polka. And I gave a brief history of how it evolved, and I also touched on how the evolution of the polka music changed also from the Eastern, into Chicago style, and the tempos and all that kind of stuff. So It's always been deep down in me.
That's cool. That's pretty cool. So what was one of your proudest moments in your entire history?
One of what?
One of your proudest moments.
Proudest?
Yeah.
As a musician?
As a musician, sure.
Well, to be honest with you, I guess when the TV show ended the letters I got and the blurbs I got really touched me in a big way. I never realized what that show and what the music meant to the elderly who were in nursing homes, who could not leave their homes,
Sure.
who were invalids, who loved to hear the Polish language come out of that box
Yep.
in their living room. I guess that's what really hit me emotionally. The fact that we were terminated because of economics, but because we we cut off an entertainment lifeline for this particular group of people.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely understandable. No, I could see how that could be big.
And of course, being this close to Canada, we used to do a lot of work in Canada, and we partnered an awful lot with Joe Androsky's orchestra in Toronto. Because again, union rules in Canada, when you hired a band from the States, you had to have a house band play also, or at least if not play, you had to pay them. But if you pay them, you might as well let them play. And of course, we didn't mind because it gave us longer intermissions in between.
There you go.
But Joe Yandrowski and us partnered quite a bit on things in Toronto or in St. Catharines, Hamilton.
Yeah.
We did a lot of work out there. Of course, the TV show helped because it carried into Canada because we were we're a border city.
Right there. Yeah.
So they picked up the TV show and an awful lot in those areas. We played as far as Guelph, Oshawa,
Holy cow.
all these places in Ontario. So
Yeah.
that was quite exciting. I got to
So-
tell you one thing that happened to us in Canada.
Okay.
It was a kind of a frightening thing for me. You know how the boys in the band like to imbibe a little bit?
Uh-huh.
Well, it was our break time, and we were playing on a stage that had tiered, on the floor, and then
Sure.
on the next tier, the trumpets, and then
Okay.
a drum up there,
Yep.
to show it off so that everybody is seen.
Everybody sees you. Yes.
So when we get back on the stage after the other band played and our break was over, who was at the highest point climbed up, and as he sat down, he fell backwards and fell right off
Oh
the
no.
top tier.
Oh wow.
For about 30 seconds, I stood there frozen, praying, not knowing what to do. And as he elevates himself and climbs back up, he says, "Okay, let's get going."
Like nothing happened.
Something to be said about filling yourself up, maybe a little bit. Oh boy, I'll tell you.
That's always, with me being a drummer, that's always my fear because we're always in the furthest in the back, and your stool's right on that edge. If you slip just a little further back, you're over
Exactly.
the edge.
Exactly.
That's always my fear. So that might be one of your. Now I know a lot of bands and musicians have these. So outside of that, do you have another crazy or funny story that you want to tell that may have happened?
No, I think that's that. Well, yeah, I guess again in Canada, the people there are extremely party happy,
Oh yes, they are.
and if you refuse their drinks, they get offended.
Yes, they do. I know that.
We played at a place in Toronto, a very spacious banquet hall. I'll never forget this. And we took our break, and they're pouring, vodka by a glassful, and they expect you to drink it. And, no way am I going to drink that. I took a sip, I'd take another sip, and try to nurse it. And I'd ask for, a chaser, like a 7-Up or something.
Sure.
They get insulted. A chaser? For what? Well, anyway, I drank as much as I felt I could. And I tried to cut it off. And And they had these potted plants there, and I poured some in the potted plant, trying to get rid of it to show that I was drinking it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, what happened was when we got back on the stage, and this was with Frank fronting the band that time.
Uh-huh.
Frank says, "Met some Ukrainian people. We got to play a Ukrainian kolomeka."
Oh.
Okay, so I tell the guys to pull out the sheet,
Yeah.
and Frank counts off, and I'm lead clarinet,
Uh-oh.
and nothing's coming out of me as the band starts. And my buddy, the guy that plays the harmony, the second clarinet, realizes what's going on, and he jumps over to my chair or where I was standing and sort of pushed me aside and started playing my part
Yeah.
until I finally came to where I could move my fingers.
Oh my gosh.
That was the only time ever that I felt the effects of that stuff. And I tried to nurse it so that because I know that I'm responsible for the guys, and I try to watch them
Sure.
and make sure that they don't go overboard. So that's another story.
Well, wrapping things up, do you have any advice to any new musicians starting in the?
Well, if it's in your heart, you'll make it. It's a big, I've lived through a big evolutionary change in polka music from the time that I was a kid, hearing, like Joe Lazar, Joe Wazar, Victor Zimbruski, Bernie White, and of course, we came into the change of the Chicago style, and a lot of the economics affected the kind of music that was being played. And so much of it has changed because of language barriers. I mean, a lot of the young people don't know the Polish language anymore.
Right.
So as a result, I see the influence of country western ease into the polka genre.
Yeah.
I mean, even Jimmy Sturr does that.
Sure.
And it's sort of fits in a way because it's folk music, so to speak, just as polka music is based on folk music. And it's easier for the non-Polish speaking musicians to pick that up. And so it's an evolutionary thing. Nothing you can do about it. I mean, it's just it's the culture that exists at any given time. Music is a reflection of culture.
Yeah.
Of whatever is going on at the time in the world or in your environment. It's the core of cultural life, really. That's all I can say is one thing I do wish I could stress to the young people who don't know the language. Don't use it if you don't know the language, because that has caused some problems with the immigrant population and our polka music, which many of them just, think it's demeaning to call it Polish.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the way it is.
Yep.
All I'm saying is, if you want to sing the Polish, make sure you find somebody who can help you with the pronunciations.
Exactly.
But please,
I 110% agree.
It's just my advice to the young people. Do it right or don't do it at all. And there's nothing wrong with singing the English now. I mean, because as I said, it's a transformation it's an evolutionary thing that goes on with music all the time.
Right.
So we're in that era.
Yeah. On behalf of the IPA, I want to thank you so much for your timing and letting us get to know you, your history. And again, thank you so much.
I thank you, Brian. I thank the IPA and the honor bestowed upon me as a member of the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's just emotionally gratifying, certainly, to see the work that we've done or the time that we've spent to be recognized. So to all of you, Godspeed, God bless you all, and stay safe, and hope to see you guys live soon.
Definitely looking forward to that.
Care.
Thank you, Joe.